Discover Hagar, the miraculous woman who encountered God as El Roi in an incredible divine plan, in the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, when the winds swept softly through the arid lands of Canaan. The story of Hagar unfolded. She was an Egyptian servant, caught amidst the tapestry of God's covenant with Abraham, chosen to bear a child when Sarah, her mistress, found herself barren. Hagar had borne the weight of expectation and entrusted dreams, yet now she wandered, heart heavy with grief and confusion, cast into the desolate wilderness where the sun pierced down mercilessly upon the parched earth. The once vibrant promise of her womb now felt like a cruel twist in a story she did not understand. As she ambled aimlessly through the barren landscape, Hagar grappled with the tumult of despair clawing at her spirit. Had she ever truly belonged? With each step, the echoes of unanswered questions surrounded her like the sorrowful winds of an empty landscape. Am I cast away forever? How can there be a purpose for my life? She whispered to the endless sky above. The promise made to Abraham, that his descendants would become a multitude, seemed to mock her insurmountable loneliness, as if she were merely a shadow in the unfolding plan of God. In her anguish, Hagar stumbled upon a spring, a mirage of relief amidst the harshness of the wilderness. It was here, where water and need met, that the Lord, in his unfathomable mercy, intervened. An angel of the Lord appeared, a radiant being whose presence ignited a flicker of warmth in the coldness surrounding her heart. Hagar, servant of Sarah, he called, his voice wrapping around her like a tender embrace. Where have you come from, and where are you going? With trembling lips, Hagar poured out her lament, recounting her trials and the weight of despair that seemed insurmountable. Yet, in the depths of her mourning, the angel spoke words that would stir the dormant echoes of hope within her soul. Return to your mistress and submit to her authority. I will increase your descendants so that they will be too numerous to count. The clarity of the promise resonated deep within her, a sacred assurance amidst the wilderness winds. She encountered God as El Roi, the God who sees her affliction. Hagar realized in that holy moment that she was not merely a pawn in a divine game, but a beloved daughter of the Most High, valued and known. As the angel departed, gratitude filled her heart, and she cried aloud, "You are the God who sees me." She knew she would return to the household of Abraham not just as a servant, but as a vessel of divine purpose, carrying the promise of her son, Ishmael, a future etched in the will of God. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. Although renewed with purpose, Hagar felt the stirrings of conflict in her heart. What awaited her upon her return? Would Sarah receive her with the same scorn? Fear mingled with faith as she sought to grapple with the mysteries of her future, carrying the full weight of the promises without knowing their fulfillment. Shadows of doubt crept in, but the unseen threads of her destiny pulled her forward. She took a deep breath, stepping back into the embrace of her life, unaware of the profound role she played in the grander orchestration of Abraham's lineage, where even the smallest among them would not go unremembered. The air crackled with divine promise, a story yet to unfold, rich with hope and mystery intertwined with her own. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting an orange glow upon the land, Hagar made her way back to the tent of Abraham. Each step seemed to echo with the silence of her unspoken fears. Would Sarah's heart soften at her return, or would the bitterness of the past shadow their path? Upon reaching the encampment, the sights of daily life unfolded before her, tents flapping gently in the evening breeze, livestock resting after the harsh day, and the familiar scent of roasting meat lingering in the air. Yet, her heart trembled, caught between hope and dread. When she stepped into the tent, a hush fell over the gathering. There sat Abraham, his face weathered but kind, and Sarah, her eyes reflecting the weight of years filled with sorrow. They were awaiting a reunion that felt as complex as the tapestry of their lives intertwined. Hagar approached, her heart pounding, and as she locked eyes with Sarah, a cascade of emotions surged through her. "Welcome back," Abraham said gently, his voice a balm to her anxious spirit. Hagar lowered herself, bowing her head in reverence. "God has seen me," she proclaimed, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "He spoke, and I am renewed with promise." Sarah's expression softened, for she heard the sincerity in Hagar's words. "Then may the Lord bless you and your child," she replied, her tone tinged with a mix of relief and resolve. Hagar felt the thawing of the icy past, as if God himself had woven new threads of grace into their relationships. Yet, the peace of the moment was short-lived. Though Hagar sought to navigate the waters of her return, the shadows of previous conflicts loomed large. Each interaction was marked by an undertone of unresolved tension. Sarah watched as Hagar nurtured the growing promise within her, the life unfolding beneath her heart, a son, whom God had named Ishmael, meaning, God hears. Days turned into weeks, and as Hagar's belly swelled, so did the strife within the household. Sarah, who had once wrangled with bitterness, now felt the pangs of jealousy twisting deep within. In her heart, the once sweet laughter of their long-anticipated blessing souring into a challenge. She approached Abraham, her voice quivering with both fear and anger. "Cast out this servant and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not inherit with my son." Abraham's heart ached at her words, for he loved both Hagar and the child born unto him. Yet, the weight of Sarah's command pressed upon him, a choice that tore at the fabric of family. In a dream that night, the Lord spoke to him, "Do not be distressed because of the boy and your maidservant. Listen to Sarah, for it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. But I will also make the son of the maidservant into a nation, because he is your offspring." So, in the morning light, Abraham prepared provisions for Hagar and her son. "You must go," he said, his voice lingering with sorrow. Hagar felt the sting of his words, but also the hand of God guiding her steps anew. The wilderness awaited her once more, a cradle of uncertainty but also of divine purpose. As she and Ishmael wandered back into the wilderness, the Lord's promise hung in the air, a mystery as profound as the desert sky. Hagar found herself at another well, a well of his promise that would quench their thirst once again. In this desolation, God would yet show his hand, for he had a plan that stretched far beyond what her eyes could see. Would she encounter him again as El Roi, the God who sees, sustaining her through the wilderness of life? Unbeknownst to her, the unfolding of this narrative was part of a greater tapestry of promise that would echo into generations, marking the rise of nations intertwined with the covenant of Abraham. The stage was set, yet the fullness of God's plan was still to be revealed. In the vast embrace of the arid wilderness, Hagar and Ishmael journeyed further from the familiarity of Abraham's tent, the sun scorching the earth beneath their worn feet. Days passed as they traversed the desolate landscape, the air heavy with uncertainty, now punctuated by the cries of a child longing for sustenance. Hagar's heart beat with the weight of her daunting reality. She was a mother in an unforgiving land, where hope struggled to rise above despair. As night descended, wrapping the world in darkness, Hagar fell to her knees beside Ishmael, who clung to her in search of comfort. The child, whose name echoed the promise of God's attentiveness, now echoed the cries of a heart in need. "O God," she implored softly, her voice barely carrying in the stillness, "you who see, do you not hear our cries?" In her desperate prayer, the one who sees heard her lament. At that moment, the angel of the Lord appeared to Hagar, standing illuminated above a nearby well that glimmered with the promise of life. "Hagar," the angel called, his voice clear and resonant against the stillness of the night. She lifted her eyes, her heart pounding at the visitation. "Do not be afraid, for God has heard the boy's cry where he is." A rush of relief flooded her spirit as the angel spoke of a future for her son. "Lift up your voice, Hagar, for your son shall become a great nation." His words wrapped around her like a warm cloak, igniting a flicker of hope. "Fear not, for the Lord will be with you and him." Hagar dashed towards the well, filling her vessel with the cool, refreshing water. She could scarcely believe the sustenance God provided, a symbol of his watchful provision and care. She turned to Ishmael, whose face brightened as he drank deeply, his spirit renewed. "See, my son, our God is with us," she whispered, her heart swelling with gratitude. Under the veil of the stars, as they rested from the day's toils, visions of promise unfurled in Hagar's mind, divine whispers guiding her thoughts. With every heartbeat, she felt the truth of El Roi take root within her. God saw her plight, and he had not abandoned her. Yet as days continued to stretch into weeks, Hagar found herself navigating the complexities of trust amidst the wilderness. The shadows of doubt sometimes encroached on the light of her faith. She mourned the distance from Abraham and Sarah, the dimming memory of home, yet the echo of the promise lingered in the air like bread rising in warmth. Ishmael played by her side, free and innocent, and she marveled at the grace of motherly love enfolding them both. One night, as she gazed towards the heavens, tears marked her cheeks, a prayer rising, "O God, you who have set my feet upon the path, complete your work in us." The winds carried her words through the vastness, as unseen forces turned toward the eternal plan of God. The angel returned to her one more time, speaking of the nations that would spring forth from Ishmael, tribes that would echo the promise, Genesis 25 verses 12 to 18, expanding into distant lands, becoming great in number. Hagar became aware that her journey, fraught with uncertainty, was not without purpose. "You have a destiny greater than you perceive," the angel assured, blending the weight of the present with the promise of the future. As dawn began to break over the horizon, casting rays of illumination upon the desolate landscape, Hagar remained still, her spirit awakened to God's profound sovereignty, a tapestry being woven through the loom of time. What she did not fully comprehend was that her son's story would intertwine with that of nations yet to be born, and though the trials were many, God's call upon their lives had only just begun to unfurl a divine purpose entwined in the legacy of his unyielding promise. Would the world be ready to witness the unfolding of his promise through the eyes of a weary but hopeful woman? The rhythm of God's design was still beating, revealing wonders yet unseen. As the sun rose upon the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Hagar and Ishmael arose from their slumber, their bodies weary yet hopeful. Hagar felt a surge of strength, the angel's message coursed through her veins, reminding her that her son would indeed be the father of a multitude. She looked at Ishmael, whose spirit seemed to reflect the dawn, bright, unyielding, and filled with promise. "Come, my son," she said with renewed vigor, "let us explore this land, for God has a purpose for us." Ishmael nodded, his childlike curiosity shining as he ran ahead, his laughter echoing against the barren backdrop. As they ventured deeper into the wilderness, the starkness of the landscape began to transform. What once felt like an endless expanse of desolation now shimmered with hidden treasures of God's creation. Days turned into weeks, and in that solitude, Hagar often found herself seeking the Lord's presence. "O El Roi," she cried out one evening, the stars twinkling like diamonds against the deepening darkness, "show me your way." Time and again, she would lift her hands, her heart making an altar, beckoning for signs of God's favor. Each plea strengthened her resolve to trust in his promises, even when the road felt long and the challenges insurmountable. But as she sought him, she felt the presence of the Lord weaving through her thoughts like gentle whispers. "You are not forgotten," he seemed to say, a balm to her wounded heart. "Each tear you shed is known to me, each prayer heard upon the winds. I have set you on this path, and my plans for you are filled with hope." One afternoon, while gathering wild berries in a secluded valley, Hagar noticed a flicker of movement in the brush. Cautiously, she approached, and to her astonishment, it was a young gazelle, grazing on the sparse foliage. As she watched, the creature looked up, its large eyes meeting hers with a glimmer of innocence. "Even you, little one, are part of God's creation," Hagar murmured, a smile breaking through her exhaustion. "We are all in his care." In the days that followed, Hagar's heart began to swell with joy as she witnessed nature unfolding in front of her. Seeds sprouted in unexpected places, and the hues of blooming flowers brightened the drab canvas of the desert. Yet, amidst this beauty, her heart would sometimes tremble at the weight of loneliness that pressed heavily upon her. Would she ever return to the embrace of her former life, or was this her new beginning? One evening, as twilight descended and stars began to twinkle in the velvety sky, the Lord's angel appeared once more. "Hagar," he said, his countenance radiant, "your cries have reached the heavens. The covenantal promise remains, I have heard your petitions. She felt as though the very air had thickened with divine presence. Behold, I am preparing a way, he continued, for your son Ishmael. He shall live in the sight of many nations, and wrath will rise against his descendants, for they shall be a people of fervor. Let it be according to your word, she replied, her heart swelling with reverence. The angel's words took root deep within her, transcending the constraints of the present and whispering hope for the unknown. As she knelt in humble worship, the realization settled within her that God was not merely concerned with her present tribulations but had set forth plans reaching far into eternity. What she could not yet fathom was that the course of Ishmael's descendants would not only shape his life but also the lives of nations to come, scenes of strife and reconciliation woven through time, echoing the complex tapestry of humanity itself. In the embrace of that sacred moment, the shadows danced across her surroundings, and the firelight flickered, revealing not only Ishmael's future but also the intricate destiny of every soul affected by their journey. For Hagar, hope illuminated the path ahead, yet remained veiled with divine mystery, a profound reflection of the unfolding of God's eternal plan. In the days that followed the angel's visitation, Hagar returned to her humble dwelling with a heart aflame with faith. Each dawn brought forth a new testament of God's provision. She saw his handiwork in the flourishing blossoms and the dew-kissed grass that carpeted the earth. And each night, as she gazed up at the sky, she whispered promises of adoration and gratitude, her soul intertwining with the celestial tapestry above. One afternoon, while Ishmael wrestled with the playful winds, Hagar reflected upon the plight of her people. The painful memories of her past often troubled her thoughts, but the angel's declaration rang in her ears: he shall be a wild donkey of a man, his hand will be against everyone and everyone's hand against him. Genesis 16 verse 12. With each recollection, she realized that the struggles ahead were a necessary part of God's unfolding purpose. The land they inhabited harshly tested their stamina and resolve. As hunger pricked at their bellies like thorny brambles, Hagar was led to a well, hidden beneath the roots of a mighty acacia tree. There, they drank from the life-giving waters, and it dawned on her that provision was constantly at hand, hidden in the scarcities of their desert home. One evening, as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the sands, Ishmael stumbled upon a small group of travelers passing through. Their laughter was a melodious sound that pierced the solitude that had enveloped Hagar and her son. The travelers, weary from their journey, noticed Ishmael's bright spirit and approached with kindness. They sat with him in the coolness of the evening, sharing stories that quickly captivated the boy's imagination. Hagar lingered nearby, her heart both wary and curious. In their faces, she saw the hint of community and the shadows of challenges akin to her own. What draws these strangers to my son? She pondered, sensing the invisible threads of divine destiny weaving their paths together. The leader of the travelers, a man of noble appearance, recounted tales of tribes and kingdoms, hinting at conflicts that lay in wait, each thread of his story revealing how Ishmael's descendants would intertwine with the fates of nations. For it is said that from your bloodline shall come valiant people, great in number and spirit, he remarked, looking upon Ishmael with a mixture of awe and reverence. As night fell, Hagar gathered near the fire, emboldened by what she had heard. She sensed the presence of the Lord, reminding her that she was part of something greater than herself. The weight of loneliness lifted as she engaged in fellowship with the travelers, sharing her own tribulations and the beauty she found in her current trials. In the midst of their conversations, one of the travelers, a woman with eyes like shimmering pools, turned her gaze to Hagar and declared, "Though the world casts its shadow upon you, remember that every dawn brings forth a new mercies." Hagar's heart swelled. She recognized God's voice in the words of this stranger. As they parted ways at dawn's first light, Hagar embraced each traveler, feeling a surge of gratitude wash over her. The world may still be a barren wilderness, yet with each encounter, her understanding expanded. She was not alone, and God's plan for her son was unfolding right before her very eyes. Yet what Hagar still could not see, whispered the wind through the barren landscape, was that the path of Ishmael was a foreshadowing, a harbinger of many destinies yet to touch the earth. Divine purposes spun quietly amidst human affairs, waiting for the opportune moment to reveal the fullness of God's sovereign plan. In the days following the traveler's visit, Hagar found herself steeped in reflection. The words of the noble man echoed within her, for it is said that from your bloodline shall come valiant people. As she contemplated this prophecy, the weight of her circumstances took on new significance. The barren land, once only a place of desolation, was now a canvas upon which God planned to paint a legacy that would echo through the ages. One day, as the oppressive sun hung low, casting its heat like a weighted blanket, Hagar ventured out with Ishmael to seek sustenance. Their provisions had dwindled once more, and her heart trembled as she recalled the promise of God to sustain them. "O Lord," she murmured softly, "grant us our daily bread." The cry of her heart reverberated across the arid plains, and she cast her eyes heavenward, pleading with the Almighty. Suddenly, as if summoned by her faith, a gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the acacia tree beside her. It was there that they had found refuge before. Hagar approached the base of the tree, her spirit heavy but palpable with hope. As she knelt to pray, her lips moved silently, interceding for herself and Ishmael. In that moment, a profound stillness enveloped her. The air, thick with anticipation, crackled with a holy energy. Hagar looked up, and there stood a figure before her, one clothed in radiant light, his countenance illuminating the shadows of her doubt. It was as if the very essence of hope had taken form, and she instinctively knew, this was a visitation from God. "Do not be afraid, Hagar," the figure spoke with a voice that resonated deep within her being, echoing the same words spoken by the angel before. "Lift your eyes, for I have seen your misery and heard your cries. I am El Roi, the God who sees you." Tears streamed down Hagar's face as the weight of her solitude crumbled under the assurance of God's presence. "Lord," she exclaimed, "why have you come to me, a mere servant?" "To remind you," he continued, "that I have heard your supplications. Ishmael shall prosper and be fortified as a great nation, not despite his wild spirit, but because of it. His future shall intertwine with the fates of many. The wilderness shall not be his end, but a beginning." With this promise, Hagar felt a surge of strength within her. The despair she had carried was lifted, and she found herself standing taller than before. She was no longer merely a wanderer in the wilderness, she was a mother chosen by God to nurture the seed of nations. Renewed in spirit, she kissed Ishmael's brow and whispered, "Come, my son, for the Lord has spoken." Together, they went deeper into the wilderness, guided by faith, trusting that God would provide both sustenance and direction. For days transformed into weeks, the desert that had once felt confining became a place of possibility. Hagar gathered wild herbs and berries, and Ishmael, with a hunger for adventure, caught small creatures to supplement their meager supply. Yet, as the sun set each evening, Hagar reflected on the assurance given to her, and she prayed fervently, believing that God would deliver, but still, a whispering uncertainty lingered in her heart. What would become of Ishmael? Would the promise of greatness truly unfold before them? As she watched the stars emerge one night, twinkling like the countless promises of God, she pondered the hidden depths of his plan. For though she had glimpsed the faithfulness of her God, she sensed that more wonder lay concealed just beyond her sight, an unfolding of destiny far grander than she could imagine. And the winds blew softly, murmuring the truth, "Though you are amidst trials, dear Hagar, remember, the path ahead shall lead to nations being birthed from struggles yet unknown. For the time is coming when the world will see the fullness of God's sovereign plan revealed." As days turned to months, the wilderness began to reshape Hagar and Ishmael. With every sunrise, as the rays pierced through the night's embrace, hope fortified Hagar's spirit. She remembered the promise of El Roi and spoke often of it to Ishmael, nurturing within him the seeds of faith and the strength of identity. One day, as the sun blazed overhead, Ishmael, now tall and resilient, called out to his mother. "Look, mother. I can see something shining in the distance." Hagar squinted against the sunlight, her heart quickening at the sight of what appeared to be glimmers reflecting off the horizon. With each step they took towards the unknown, Hagar felt a mixture of trepidation and anticipation. What lay ahead? Could this be the provision for which she had long prayed? As they drew closer, the vision unfolded: a cluster of palms surrounding a well, the water glistening like sapphire in the morning light. Hagar sank to her knees, overwhelmed with gratitude. "The Lord has truly provided," she exclaimed, tears of joy mingling with the dust of the earth beneath her. She hurried to draw water, and as it rushed forth, she quenched her thirst and filled her flask, thanking God for his unwavering faithfulness. As they rested beside the well, Ishmael began to share dreams of what he would one day accomplish. "I will be a mighty hunter," he declared, a spark of his spirit igniting in his eyes. Hagar listened with pride, pondering the prophecy given to her that his wildness would be his strength. The promise echoed in her heart, instilling courage as they filled their provisions anew, yet, even in moments of peace, uncertainty would creep in. "What does great nation mean?" Ishmael asked, a shadow flickering across his features. Hagar knelt down to meet his gaze. "It means you will have descendants, sons and daughters. You will lead them, and you will know the hand of God upon your life." But she too felt the weight of the promise's magnitude. She prayed silently, "O Lord, let your word be established in him. Let not the struggles we have endured be in vain." The days continued to pass, each filled with the fellowship of mother and son, the vast wilderness becoming a sacred space of growth and learning. One evening, under a constellation of stars that burned bright against the dark canvas of the sky, Hagar pondered the future. She recalled the heritage bound to Ishmael and how, as he thrived, so too did their hopes. Then, sleep took her, and she was startled awake by a whisper wrapped in urgency. "Hagar." The voice was familiar, yet wholly beyond measure. "I have a message from heaven." Fear crept into her heart, but she steadied herself, remembering El Roi was with her. "What is it, Lord?" "Prepare your heart and raise your expectations, for a great nation is imminent. Ishmael will not only thrive in the wilderness, I will lead him to a place of favor and covenant. Keep watch, for the hour is at hand when those who have passed over you will look to him for guidance." With these words, Hagar felt a surge of divine assurance course through her. The truth of God's sovereign plan began to unfold before her like the dawn breaking from the night. She understood now, her journey was not merely survival, but one rich with purpose. Awash in a newfound resolve, she knelt, bowing her head toward the earth and gave thanks for the countless blessings. "O Lord, may your name be declared throughout all generations." And as the night deepened, sunlight began to caress the horizon, illuminating the path ahead. Hagar knew they stood on the precipice of God's revelation. For soon, she would discover the depth of his promise, and the identity of her son would shape destinies beyond their wildest dreams. Yet, the winds whispered still, calling forth an echo that lingered in the air, reminding her, "Though you behold the threads of the present, know that the tapestry of the future is intricately woven by the hand of the Almighty." In the early dawn, as the sun cast its golden hue over the land, Hagar awoke, the whisper of the Lord still resonating within her. She turned to see Ishmael sleeping soundly, his chest rising and falling rhythmically. It struck her then, orchestrated by divine hands, this boy, her son, would one day walk pathways lined with nations. "Today, El Roi watches over us," she whispered to herself, the weight of God's promise wrapping around her like a shawl. The beauty of creation reminded her of the splendor of God's faithfulness. She rose quietly, kneeling near the well, drawing water in preparation for their journey. Out of her reverence, she whispered a prayer, "Lord, bless my son and guide us through the wilderness. Let every drop of water be a reminder of your provision." As she filled her vessels, the sound of splashing water danced like music in her ears. Life-laden water in the barren land served as an emblem of hope. Ishmael stirred, awakening to the cool, crisp air of morning. He sat up, gazing at the palms before him, their fronds swaying gently in the breeze. "Mother, today feels different," he remarked, an unexplainable excitement threading through his voice. "Indeed, my son," Hagar responded, her heart fluttering. "We are to walk in faith, for the Lord has spoken." The truth of the heavens sunk deep into her soul, knitting together the confidence she longed to share with him. As they prepared to set forth, Hagar sensed the clouds gathering in the distance. The skies, once clear and promising, now hid a storm. Her heartbeat quickened. The wilderness had been both ally and adversary, providing sustenance while harrowing her spirit. "We must be watchful, the wilderness can change as swiftly as the heart," she cautioned Ishmael, holding closely the lessons learned in solitude. Yet as they continued on their path, a looming shadow fell upon them. A caravan emerged on the horizon, travelers dusting the earth with their diverse colors and wares. Hagar's heart raced, a mixture of fear and intrigue ignited within her. Did they come in peace, or were their intentions veiled? One of the merchants, noticing the pair, approached with curious eyes. "Who are you that wander these treacherous lands? What glory might you possess?" he asked, scrutinizing Ishmael with interest. "Our lineage is from the house of Abraham," Hagar declared, her voice steady despite the tempest brewing in her chest. "Ishmael, my son, is called to be a great leader of nations." The words echoed around them, laced with prophetic fervor. The merchant raised an eyebrow, amusement curling his lips. A boy destined to be a leader? He chuckled, yet in his eyes lay a flicker of disbelief and curiosity. Undeterred, Hagar felt the Spirit of God stirring within her. "Indeed, but understand this, God's plans unfold in unexpected ways. It is not the stature nor riches of man that honor a promise, but the sovereign hand of the Almighty," she declared, her words ringing with the weight of truth. Ishmael, emboldened by his mother's words, stepped forward. "I shall rise to fulfill my calling. This wilderness has been my home, but my heart yearns for what lies beyond." His spirit glowed as he spoke, the fire of destiny igniting in his young heart. The merchant's laughter faded, replaced by contemplation. "Perhaps there is wisdom in your words," he mused, glancing back at his companions who now listened. "I may have a place for the both of you in my travels." Yet deep within, Hagar sensed the stirring of God's plan, a divine scheme unfolding like a fragrant bloom amidst thorns. This encounter was no accident, it was a pivotal moment woven into the fabric of their destinies. As they followed the caravan toward an uncertain future, Hagar glanced skyward. The gathering clouds churned above, but a light broke through, illuminating the path. She heard the echo of the Lord's promise, and in that moment, she understood, their journey marked the beginning, not the end. In the heart of God's grand design, she realized, her son would play an essential role, yet the full tapestry awaited revelation, for what she did not yet comprehend was that the path ahead would weave together not only her story and Ishmael's but the destinies of nations yet unnamed, cradled within the intricate purpose of the Almighty. As the caravan moved onward, Hagar and Ishmael felt the vibrant rhythm of the travelers' lives blending with their own. The sun's rays pierced the clouds, casting brilliance upon golden dust that danced in the air. Hagar was mindful of the merchant's offer, yet her heart wrestled with unease, for she could sense that this new journey was not merely a passage through physical lands, but a deeper movement through God's ordained purpose. "Look, mother," Ishmael said, pointing to the distant hills. "What lies beyond those mountains? Do you think we will encounter more like us?" Hagar's eyes followed his gesture, her heart both ached at the thought of hope and rejoiced in faith. "Beyond the hills lies the promise of God," she replied, her voice steady and filled with a mother's reassurance. "But remember, my son, we are not alone, the Lord is with us." As they traveled side by side, Hagar found herself contemplating Sarai's words, the bitter memories whispering through her mind like the wind through the trees. How she had once been cast aside, and yet here she stood, a mother cradled in divine promise. Questions filled her heart. Would Ishmael fulfill his destiny? Could the nations rise as God foretold? Unshakable faith mixed with uncertainty, but she pressed onward, resolved to trust the one who sees. The caravan halted at a shrub-dense oasis, providing rest and refreshment. Hagar knelt to draw water, the coolness washing over her hands like grace. She gazed into the vessel, reflecting upon God's plan for Ishmael. As she filled their containers, the memories of despair faded, and she sensed a stirring within the waters, an invitation into deeper trust. Suddenly, a gentle breeze whispered through the oasis. A sense of longing filled the air, and the merchant approached Hagar, offering her a plate of dates. "These are sweet, made for those who walk a hallowed path," he said knowingly. His eyes narrowed, as if seeing something beyond the present. "There is something special about you." Hagar offered a graceful nod, accepting the kindness with gratitude. "Thank you. It is by the grace of God that I can call this wilderness home," she replied, her heart open to the possibility of unity among them. As the caravan resumed its journey, the path winds into a valley laden with fragrant blooms and a radiant horizon. A thunderous rumble resonated along with a flash of lightning. A storm was brewing, unearthing emotions buried deep. In that moment, Hagar turned to Ishmael. "We must find shelter. Even in the tumult, we must remember who guides us." Ishmael looked to the sky, his young brow furrowed. "Will the storm harm us, mother? Do you think God will protect us?" "Trust him, Ishmael," she whispered, as the winds howled louder. She felt the weight of her words, heavy with belief and the burden of fears. The very storms of life often shadow the promise, yet in her heart, memories of God's provision surged forth. She remembered the well in the wilderness, the water that saved them. As the skies burst open, raindrops descended like grace itself, washing over them. Hagar raised her arms, unafraid. "Lord, let this storm be a reminder that even the fiercest winds cannot overshadow your promise," she exclaimed, her voice a beacon of hope amid chaos. And just then, a familiar voice broke through the noise. The voice of the Almighty echoed in her spirit, reminding her that his covenant does not waver in tempestuous seas. "I will make you a great nation, and you shall be called the father of many," the voice assured her, assuring not only Ishmael but all of creation of God's unwavering purpose. With renewed courage, Hagar looked at Ishmael, whose eyes sparkled with faith. The storm raged on, yet the light within them grew fiercer. They were not merely surviving, they were being transformed by the journey, for in that tempest, they were to understand, the trials would refine them, and beyond every storm lies the promise still echoing, God's sovereign plan ever unfolding, leading them to a yet undreamed future, one where nations would emerge from the heart of one born in the wilderness. Little did they know, the storm was but the beginning, an onset to reveal deeper realms of faith and ancestral legacy woven into the vast tapestry of their purpose, a purpose rooted in the promise of the Almighty, which would encompass the very foundations of many generations yet to come. The winds of the wilderness spoke, carrying with them the promise of Yhwh, the God who had seen her plight and woven Hagar's narrative into the grand tapestry of his redemptive plan. As dusk settled upon the landscape, casting shadows through the vibrant oasis, Hagar gathered her resolve. She remembered the words of the angel and embraced the legacy that was hers to nurture. "Rise up, Ishmael," she said, her voice echoing with newfound boldness. "We tread forward into our destiny. The Lord has a future for you, greater than we can comprehend." Ishmael, now a young man, stood firm beside her, and together they ventured deeper into the mysteries of the promise held within each moment. With each step, the landscapes they traversed began to morph, revealing abundant opportunities manifesting like the vibrant petals of desert blooms, while the air hummed softly with divine potential. One day, as they moved through a valley rich with the murmurs of life, they encountered a tribe dwelling in harmony. Curious eyes turned toward them, and hearts were quickened with anticipation. "Who are you that traverse these lands?" the chief asked, his voice resonant with authority yet laced with wonder. Hagar stepped forth, imbued with strength from above. "I am Hagar, a servant of the Most High. This is my son Ishmael, destined to lead and become a great nation. The Lord spoke to me, and his words shall not return void." The murmurs of the tribe hushed as her words reverberated amongst them. With humility yet confidence, she recounted the tales of God's faithfulness, the trials they had surmounted, and the promise that awaited Ishmael, whose very name echoed the God who hears. And as she spoke, she saw a flicker of recognition ignite within the hearts of her listeners. The chief, moved by her narrative, extended an invitation to their sanctuary. "Stay with us, for your journey aligns with our paths. We shall be as one, intertwined in the promise of the Almighty." Hagar's heart swelled, sensing the threads of heritage weaving a future for her son, not in isolation, but in community, bound by faith and purpose. Days turned to weeks, and the bond between Hagar's family and the tribe deepened. Ishmael flourished, learning the ways of leadership and courage under the watchful eyes of their newfound kin. Hagar, too, found a renewed purpose, her heart blossoming as she nurtured both her son and relationships within this thriving community. But Hagar often retreated to the quiet places to seek the face of El Roi, whispering her gratitude for provisions and provisions yet to come. One moonlit night, she knelt beneath the vast expanse of glittering stars. "O God, you who knows the depths of our hearts, let your will knit our lives into the legacy of nations to come," she prayed fervently. In the stillness, she felt the gentle wind brush against her cheek, a reminder of his presence, confirming the tapestry was incomplete. "Hagar," came the familiar voice of the Almighty through the stillness. "I have seen your faith, your obedience. Rejoice, for the promise shall extend far beyond your understanding. Through Ishmael, kings will rise and nations will be birthed." Tears streamed down her cheeks as awe enveloped her spirit. She could see the budding future flourishing on the horizon, a kingdom forged in the heart of God, weaving through the lives of countless souls. The wilderness that once felt like desolation now blossomed with possibility, echoing with the truth of who they were, a journey forged by divine intention. With a heart now emboldened, Hagar returned to the tribe, sharing her encounters and stirring hope among the people. Together, they began to cultivate the land, united in purpose, living testimonies of God's ever-expanding kingdom and profound mercy. And as seasons turned into years, the narrative weaving through Hagar and Ishmael blossomed into a magnificent legacy. Ishmael grew into a wise leader, his spirit full of adventure and valor, leading not just his household but also influencing the tribes surrounding them. One day, sitting atop a hill that overlooked the valleys below, Hagar gazed at the land flourishing through faith and unity. "Remember, Ishmael, the soil from which you blossom is sacred," she spoke, imbuing his heart with the weight of history and promise. "God has made you a father of many nations, a legacy dressed in humility yet filled with strength." As Hagar aged gracefully among the people, she became a matriarch of faith, often retelling stories of God's interventions, perpetuating the sacred knowledge of El Roi, the God who sees, who knows, and whose promises do not falter. Through her, generations learned the echoes of promise, reverberating throughout time, reminding them that no story or life was forgotten in his divine design. The chronicles of Hagar and Ishmael, woven beautifully into God's sovereign plan, became catalysts for futures unknown, their legacy a testament to perseverance, faith, and the unyielding presence of the God who sees, ever guiding, ever faithful, to fulfill his divine promises eternal. Now, dear friends, as you read this sacred account, let it reignite within you the fire of faith, hope, and purpose. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word and not miss the next powerful biblical stories that shape and inspire. Like this video now to help spread God's truth through the algorithm, ensuring many others receive the blessings within these narratives. Comment below your reflections and let us know how this story impacts your faith journey. And please, don't wait even one more second to share this impactful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear about God's promises and love. Only true believers understand the importance of supporting biblical content, so let's go forth together and let His truth illuminate the world.